ready.
Welcome to another episode of Buff in the Rough. Today we'll hear from Keaton Hamberger about being gifted a Grand Champion and a dog box, his hounds Bolt, Hicks, and Boomer, and a whole lot more. Help me welcome Keaton Hamberger to the program. Well, hey Keaton, how are you?
Hey Sam, I'm good. Can't complain. Got a lot going on, but life's good.
Well, I thank you so much for coming on. I've wanted to get to learn more about you and your hounds, and this is just a great opportunity, not only for me to learn about you, but for all the listeners out there to learn more about you too. So kind of before we get started, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe how you got into rabbit hunting?
Yeah, sure. So for anyone that doesn't know, Keaton Hamberger. I live in the southwestern portion of Pennsylvania. Really, growing up, my dad had some Beagles. In the state of Pennsylvania, you couldn't hunt till you were 12 years old. And now that's changed. So, there's times where I have my 7-year-old out rabbit hunting with us. But really, we started off in the rabbit world by basically being gun hunters. And then we got busy with sports and whatnot when I was a kid. And then after high school and college, I said to my dad, I said, man, I'd really like to get back into, rabbit hunting and some dogs. And it just so happened that my dad worked at a high school, and Roger Hanning was part of, the staff around there. And my dad said, well, heck, I'll ask him, see what he's got. He's a little pack guy. He's always had good dogs. And it was, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago now. He gave me a couple dogs. And that really, we took off gun hunting again. And then Randy Workman got me in the trials. I think it was about 2019. And then that has completely changed the rabbit dog world for us.
Mm-hmm. So can you help me a little bit on the difference between Little Pack and, you mentioned Randy Workman, so I'm assuming that's going to be primarily hunting beagle style UKC kind of dogs. So is there a difference between those two kinds of dogs, types of dogs, or can you hunt the same dog in both of those formats?
Personally, I think you could hunt the same dog in the format. Obviously, they're looking for two different styles of dogs, I would say. Little pack, any format, you want a dog that'll jump a rabbit, Mm-hmm. But little pack, you're looking for something that is quick out of that check to claim it and go, Mm-hmm. and just repeatedly, kind of hammer on that check. Whereas, just the UKC rules, right, with the time that we have between checks, recoveries, whatever, it's just a little bit different mm-hmm. scoring of the dogs, Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you hate to say it, but everyone's looking for that dog in the front. And even, in Little Pack, if you have a dog in the front that breaks down and recovers a check and drives it out of there and then, is ahead where the other dogs can't get the check on it, you're scoring, same mm-hmm. way with a dog in UKC that's getting all the first lines.
Well, Keaton, how many years have you been doing this? How long have you been in the rabbit dog business?
Oh, I don't know, Sam, maybe 15 years between gun hunting and,
sure.
But the trial work has been, or the trial part of it's been about 6 years, roughly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I think it actually started at the Dale Pruney Classic was the first hunt that I ever went to, which was, just this past weekend. And I think it was 2019 was when I went to the first one.
Well, you've been in this a good little while. Well, let me back up. Now, you said you live in Southwest PA. So, can you tell us what the hunting conditions are like there, and what kind of a dog do you need to be successful?
So, primarily what I hunt in is briars. There are some, little portions of it, wheat fields, stuff like that, but it's mostly thicker briars, before roast type stuff and hills,
Mm-hmm.
Not so much mountains, but hills, And and you even get into some wood lines that are thick, right? And then they'll get into the woods and whatnot. But it's primarily briars. You need a dog in our part of the country that will go jump a rabbit for sure, and dig one out of there. They can be sitting in there pretty tight in them briars, and it's not always easy to get them out of there.
Can you talk to me a little bit about people who have had the biggest influences on you?
Yeah, there's a few that come to mind pretty quick. Obviously my dad, because we kind of were in this together, and every day me and him talk, either when I'm off work, because he's retired, so just about every day when I'm off work, if he ran dogs or if I'm going to or whatever, we got something we're scheming together on trying to get ready, But I'll say, there's a few in particular as far as, Randy Workman for kind of getting me started in it. And really, Randy's one of them guys that he knows the rules of UKC exceptionally well, right? Mm-hmm. And any rule question I've had, he's helped me with, along with a couple others. But another one is Justin Schaefer. He's within 20 minutes of where I live, and his knowledge of dogs is just unbelievable, and trying to get them ready and whatnot. And then Scotty Miller. I actually met Scotty at a field trial, and we just have become really good friends. And Roger Hanning, he's someone that I own a couple of dogs with him, and just his dog knowledge and just how to get them ready, what they need. I mean, he's really taught me a lot about care for the dogs, mm-hmm. beyond just your normal stuff. Been pretty lucky.
Well, that's a good list. Now, what's your dad's name? We want to make sure he gets recognized. We need good dads out there that.
Yeah. Tim Hamberger is his name.
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of the UKC people know him, but I try to give him as much credit as possible because he runs them a lot.
Well, I tell you, if you've got that setup where he's retired and he can run them and keep them in shape, and that's half the battle. I've had a lot of people tell me that the trials are won during the week, Sam, not on the weekend.
Just
get them ready.
I get back to Roger Hanning. He told me, he said, you got to do your homework during the week to pass your test on the weekend.
I like that.
And that's really, that's what it comes down to. I mean, you got to put the time in them. It depends too. Everyone's got a little different theory on how to run them and whatnot. But I'll take this past weekend, for instance. Boomer ran 4 rounds in the heat and everything like that. I'll give him a couple of days off and really work on the other ones, and then get back to him a couple of days, because you don't want them wore out again for the weekend.
Mm-hmm. Well, talk to us a little bit about some of your favorite hounds that you had. Now, you mentioned Boomer, but I know you've had some really nice hounds. So what are your favorite ones?
Yeah, so I'll go back to one that I'll start, with one that Roger Hannon gave me. He was, a grand rabbit Beagle champion in Little Pack or whatever. And back then, I didn't even know what that was. Had no idea. And he gave me this dog. He gave me a dog box, everything I needed, and he's like, take him, go do what you want with him. And looking back, I had no idea what he gave me, That sucker, he could jump a rabbit and just pound it, and we killed, back in those days, I mean, we probably killed, 100 rabbits in a season over that dog, And so obviously he was, he's at the top, and his demeanor, we just lost him a couple years ago. His demeanor, even at 13, 14 years old, that dog was still like a kid when my son was around him. He would just play with him and just, the nicest dog. So he's definitely up there.
Now, what was his name, Keaton? I might have missed that.
So his name was Lightning. Yep.
Lightning, okay.
Yeah. And and then, really, I kind of went through a couple dogs trying to find the right one. You only want to pay so many entry fees and lose so many times when you start into the trials before you got to start looking at something, And then so really I bought a puppy out of Ohio. I still remember this to this day. We started this puppy beside my house on a little pipeline, or a power line right away. It's real thick. And we had just had our second child. And so I was off work for a little bit, and this puppy needed started. So me and my son, who was 4 at the time, are out there chasing this dog around and trying to put rabbits in front of it and everything. And we got it started and running. And that was who I call Lightning Bolt. And that dog has gone on, from being started in a power line beside our house to he's placed fairly well in some of the bigger UKC hunts, probably as a underdog for sure. And he just kind of comes through sometimes at those big hunts, So I just always say about him, he's typically pretty consistent. He's not super flashy, but he should go find you a rabbit, And then I was lucky enough. So we were running Bolt all the time, and Roger Hannon called me one day, and he's like, "Hey," he said, "I have this dog down here. He's almost a year old. You need to come get him." And so obviously I sweet talked my wife a little bit, because that was the last thing she wanted was another dog, and me running more, right?
That's right.
And so I told her, I said, at first I kind of played it off like, hey, I'm just going to get this dog and just run it a little bit for Roger, And deep down she knew that it was probably going to end up at our house. And that just happened to be Hicks. And we got him. And the first time that I had him out and ran him, I was like, holy cow, he can smoke a rabbit, I'm like, it really impressive. He was only a year old, And so we took him and really put the time into soloing him, getting him right. And Roger had put, it's hard to tell, probably 1,000 miles on him already by that age,
Mm-hmm.
And really, I mean, when it's right, when he's right, he is pretty tough to beat, And he'll go jump you a rabbit, and like I said, he can really run one. And so he's been a pleasure. I still, he's the one that he won NHBA days a couple years ago. I believe he was 2 years old, I think, when he won it. And it was just one of them times where he was clicking and just doing his thing, And then, right now we have Boomer, who he's another one. He's just consistent. And you see a lot of people talk about him and the way that he hunts and jumps rabbits. And I will say, I mean, if I needed a rabbit jumped, he is the one that I would go to, in my opinion, of what I have currently,
Mm-hmm.
And he just has that knack. And, when he's in a cast, the longer they go without jumping one, the better his chances are, because he's not tailgating a dog. He's not looking for another one. He's looking for a rabbit by himself,
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like a good list of dogs. So now you've been out there hunting all these years. What are some of the better dogs you've competed against? Some dogs that really caught your eye?
Yeah, so, a dog that I really only got to run against him a couple times, and it was maybe once with one of my own dogs, an older female that I used to run. But Mongo, I'll tell you what, man, that dog, he's another one that could really run a rabbit. And just seeing him and that voice he had, I just really enjoyed listening to him run, And then Trevor McQueen's chief dog, that dog, he was another one that, man, he would go find you a rabbit, and when he got one, he could run it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Brian Hutton's Big Bad Bailey, he's whipped me a couple times, so I got to throw that dog out there because she's tough. With the year she won the Clash, she beat us in the finals, and man, she was just unstoppable. You know, that was the same weekend she won Grand Nationals or Summit Nationals, and I mean, she's impressive. Every time I've seen her, I've been impressed.
Mm-hmm.
And another favorite female that I had was Randy and Lloyd Workman's Reba dog. She was another one that, man, I could just listen to her run. That she, for a female, the big voice that she had, and just the way that she could run a rabbit. Mm-hmm. I would have liked her for sure. You know, I'd have liked to own her.
Well, that's a pretty good list.
Yeah.
If you could draw up a dream cast of 4 dogs that you would like to see go, and these could be dogs from today, they could be dogs that have been gone long ago from the past. What 4 dogs would you like to see go head to head?
So, when I look at some of the dogs that I'm running and the breedings, I look at some of the males that they were out of, and I would really like to have seen a cast that would have had Logan Elm Black Butcher in it, Big Meadows Black Eagle, Reggie, and Bone Collector. I would have just liked to have seen that because I kind of, when I look at some of the dogs that I own and look at their pedigrees and whatnot, I'm just really curious on, you know, some of it besides looks on who they really favor. Mm-hmm. You know,
that's a heck of a list, man. That's strong. Who wins that cast? Do you think?
I really don't know because I've never. So I've heard videos of Butcher running when he was still alive. Mm-hmm. The other 3, I've never seen run. You know, I've heard things. I would say it probably just depended on the conditions, really. Mm-hmm. You know, because there's a couple really good jump dogs in there, I would say, mm-hmm. and there's a couple dogs that could really run a rabbit in there, I would say.
That's a cast I'd like to see. I'd be right there with you.
Yeah,
that's a good one. Well, tell us about some of your most memorable hunts.
Oh, man. So I remember, this is, you know, just personally, some of the, early on, you know, some of the first cast that I had to judge and how nervous I was, you know?
Yeah.
Those ones always stick there because you don't want to mess up, you know?
That's right.
And you're always like in the back of your mind thinking like, do I know the rules good enough to be this judge? Do I, you know? And it never failed. Every time I would judge, there'd be some sort of like messed up split track and something, you know?
Of course.
We had a cast one time. The dogs were split 3 different ways.
Ooh.
And big spring running, and it was a disaster, you know? And we all, even the cast members, like we all worked through it and scored it properly, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it was, you know? Another one that really sticks out to me is, I forget what year it was, maybe 21 or something like that. I had a dog out of Randy Workman's Duke dog that I ended up in Ohio placing like 12th in the world with him or something. And I just remember like making it through there and how nervous I was. Right?
Oh, I bet.
About like being in the semifinals and like costing that dog some issue, you know? I remember because so that was it sticks in my mind, and I actually was talking about it yesterday with some people. Was they had drones out on our semifinal cast for the world. The drone noise was like driving the dogs crazy, right? Like you could see how it was like affecting him, and we actually had to ask him to like either raise it up higher or just like put him away because all the dogs. I mean, there was Trevor McQueen's chief dog was in there who has been all over the country, seen everything, and even it just had them all kind of startled a little bit.
Well, sure.
So that was kind of it was different and memorable. I'm trying to think. Last year, a lot of people get nervous whenever they're handling a dog in those big trials in the finals or whatever. But you ought to be the owner and sitting in a parking lot waiting for word on what place you got in the world. Because Scotty handled Boomer last year all the way through the world. And, I wasn't going to change anything up for the finals. I mean, he got him there. But, man, I bet I've walked 100 miles in 20 foot in a parking lot,
So Boomer made it to the finals in the world last year?
Yeah, he ended up second overall.
Wow. Well, tell me about, because if you do this long enough, you're going to see crazy stuff while you're out there hunting. What's one of the craziest things you've ever seen? Well, I got to tell you.
I got to think that one a little bit. I tell you what, something that I did see that was, I don't know if it was crazy, but it was one of those things that happens on a cast. Like I talked about the terrain here, we got these thick briars and everything, and we had these dogs. There was a tree right in the middle of these briars, and here we are on this cast, and dogs strike. I mean, it's so thick you can't see in there, and there's a tree there, and up goes a coon in the tree. We see a coon, and I'm thinking, heck, well, I'm gonna have to scratch the whole cast. Well, here a rabbit come running out too. So it was one of them things like we got lucky, really, and but it was just kind of crazy how they were within like probably 20 or 30 feet of that tree where that coon was when they actually jumped the rabbit.
That's a good one. That's a really good one. Well, let's let you have an opportunity to build the perfect hound for Keaton Hamberger. If you could build the perfect hound for you, what would they look like and sound like and hunt like?
So, I'm not much of a, I don't know that I've ever shown a dog in a show. I've entered a couple for my son to show. So I'm not huge on looks, right? I'm more, I wanted to be able to run a rabbit and rabbit. But I like a darker colored, whether it's black and tan or, black with some open. Nice, square, stocky head. I do like that. And really, I like a 15-inch hound. I like the 14 and a half, 15-inch hound. And really, because of the competitions, I like a bigger bark and louder. That way I can hear it and other people can too,
Right.
But I also like a little bit of a bark that's different than the majority of what dogs sound like, the hounds sound like, That way it's easier for me to pick it apart.
Yes.
The rest of them,
That sounds like a pretty good dog. So let me ask you this. In talking about some of your memories and some of your hounds, we're just coming off of the Del Pruni Classic this weekend. You did pretty well there, didn't you?
Yeah. So Boomer finished second overall. Won 3 of the 4 casts. Had some pretty good scores. He did a nice job, and we just had heat, and it took jumping a rabbit, especially in the last cast yesterday afternoon. It was pretty warm, and it was coming down to, Scotty was actually handling, but I'm just kind of guessing there may have been 8 or 10 minutes left in the hunt. He just got off there by himself and jumped a rabbit and, circled it, and, they all got struck in, but that him jumping that rabbit put him ahead. And that's really, I mean, he does that pretty often. He'll get off there by himself and jump one, you know?
I love it. Love it. Everybody loves a good jump dog.
Yeah.
Love
I mean, you know, you always hear, and myself included, I mean, I've had quite a few of them, hounds, you know, and, but them ones that just know how to jump a rabbit like that, they're not everyday hounds, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So when you get one like that, it's really something that you appreciate.
Yeah, you got to enjoy that. You really do.
Yeah.
Why you got it, you got to enjoy it. Well, let me ask you. You mentioned earlier Butcher and Eagle and Reggie and Bone Collector, and when you're out there looking for your next project, do you have a favorite pedigree? Do you have favorite dogs you like to see in your pedigree?
So I am everything that we are running right now in trials has a little bit of that minus the Reggie right now.
Mm-hmm.
Boomer is the Bone Collector and the Butcher, right? Which obviously that whole litter that I've seen, and I've been around quite a few of them. They all hunt, you know, and they all have different characteristics besides that hunt, but there is just a ton of hunt in that, between that cross, you know.
Right.
I mean, I really like the Butcher stuff. What I've seen of it, you know, what I've been around besides what I have myself.
Mm-hmm.
They do pretty good, you know. I mean, you look at, I think it's NHBA's top reproducer, and I want to say he's like 4th right now or something, and not that many pups in UKC, but what they've done winning wise, you know, there's definitely some good stuff in there.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're out there competing, you go to these competition hunts. Is there anyone you like to beat just a little bit more than everybody else?
I think we all have those people we want to.
Yes, we do.
Kind of beat, but you know, really, when it comes down to it, whether it's Scotty or Randy or Justin, you know what I mean? Because you know, I kind of have looked up to them guys quite a bit. So when if I do draw them in a cast, it makes it a little better, you know, to beat some people that you have kind of looked up to and got you where you're going.
That's
you know?
right. That's right. That's right. Yeah, that's a good answer. I think that's kind of a popular answer. There are some just rivalries out there between people, but a lot of times it's more fun beating your buddies than anybody else.
Yeah. I mean, so I'll say this. In our little area of southwestern PA, there is some, you know, pretty quality dogs, and any given weekend or whatever, you can draw, you know, some of the best, right? Because I mean, you're talking where we live, you know, you can be in Coshocton in an hour and a half, and you can be, you know, down to middle of West Virginia in a couple hours, you know? So, you know, you're drawing some pretty quality dogs, and it's more so just the some of the camaraderie and stuff, and some of the you know, just beating some of the bigger name people every now and again too is kind of nice, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this: I mean, if you're going to a hunt and you're thinking about who you would not want to draw because you know they're going to be on their A game, they're going to have the best dog. Who's one of the hottest dogs in the country right now that you just know you would have your hands full if you drew them on a cast?
You know, I really, to narrow down one specific dog, we go to quite a few trials, but we don't travel all over the place just because we are so busy. But I look at, like, this weekend at the Prudy Classic, I drew Joe Merritt with dog, I think 3 rounds or something like that. That dog's leading the NHBA points, or was, or maybe still is. I drew Heat 'em Up Danger, and these dogs are winning all the time, right? So, I wouldn't say that there's any that I'm really thinking about or trying to avoid. I want to see what we have and maybe what we need to work on for later in the year.
That's a good answer. That's a very good answer. I like it.
You got to do the homework, right? But that's part of the homework too, is seeing what your dog is able to do against these other dogs. And maybe when it comes down to it in October, right? Because everyone is chasing that world title, right?
That's right.
So, when it comes down to it, what your dog needs or whatever to be able to beat some of those top dogs.
Well, let me ask you this. If you ever need help with a hound-related challenge, and that may be a health issue, a breeding question, a training question, and you could only call one person and ask for advice, who are you going to call?
I would 100% call Roger Hanning. I forget, I think it's 35 or 40 years he's been fooling around with hounds, dog, whether it's Beagles, Coonhounds, Foxhounds, he would be my first call. And he has currently, in the past 6 or 7 years, helped me greatly with some of the things that you deal with hounds.
He just sounds like a good dog man, just all the way around.
He truly is. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite part of the country or a favorite club you like to go to?
I like this area, right here in Southwest PA, where we are, just because we have a good rabbit population. We have briars. You have people in the competitions that are, there's a lot of times we have paths prepared for people coming in scoring. People just put a lot of effort in our couple 100-mile area between the Ohio, West Virginia, and our southwest corner of PA. I like it right here.
I don't blame you. I don't think I'd ever leave.
Yeah,
that's a good spot.
I hear on the other podcasts, a lot of people talk about Tennessee and whatnot. I was only there one time. The view while I was there was beautiful, but I just don't have enough experience running down there to really rule out our area.
Well, the rules change; they get modified over the years. If you could change any rule, and I'm talking about either taking one out, adding a rule, maybe just modifying a rule that's already there, just tweaking it a little bit. Is there a particular rule you would want to work on?
I can't really say there's a rule that I would like to work on. Really, and we mostly just compete in UKC, and really, I think where it's at right now, I like it. I like the change that they made where on split tracks, you no longer have the recoveries, because, sometimes that was quite a challenge for the judge, whether it was me or anyone else, and I really just feel like that was a good change. I don't really have anything that I would change. I know there's always a discussion with UKC on whether you can use the track and train callers or train only. I see both sides of it. There's a part of me that likes the training only, or the tracking only, sorry. But there's also a part of me that understands the track and train, just because there are some, when you get into the younger kids, and also the older adults, I know, my dad's probably getting closer to being done handling dogs in the trials. And, but I think, that would help him dramatically on being able to catch the dog or whatever.
Right.
If he could use that, Mm-hmm. But, it's one of those things. I see both sides of it. And honestly, like for myself, I'm on the fence about that. So, I kind of like it where it is right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, Keaton, if you were giving advice to someone considering getting a Beagle and getting in this game, whether it's gun dogging or competition or both, what kind of advice would you give to somebody?
So, I would tell them to go see different dogs before deciding on something. It's pretty easy to call someone up and say, hey, I want to come see this dog. And, it happens to be the right day and that dog looks, worth like he's worth $1 million, and then you get him and it doesn't work out that way, So mm-hmm. I would say if I was getting a rabbit dog, I would want to look at a bunch of them before deciding. And, that's kind of what I would tell someone. And I would also tell them to look around, ask in the areas, whatever, for some people that can give you some guidance on what to do with them, because, you can make a lot of mistakes with them and make your life a lot harder than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's some really good advice. And I think people get really impatient and excited and maybe jump on things a little too quickly sometimes. But that's really good advice. Take your time, go see a bunch of different hounds and different styles and find what works best for you. And I love the idea of finding like a mentor, sort of somebody that'll take you under the wing a little bit and show you the ropes. And we're so blessed in this country to have good dog men and women all over the country. I mean, about any direction. There's always people that are willing to help you. So that's super advice.
Yep. So, I would say, I've met a lot of people through the trials and everything like that. And I couldn't name a single person that I've asked a question that they didn't answer it for me. Mm-hmm. Whether it was something I wanted to hear, if I asked, hey, what do you think about this dog, or what, or just health or training wise or whatever. I've never had anyone not answer a question or that I know of really kind of steer me in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. So really, even though you're competing and everything like that, outside of those casts, a lot of people will help you.
That's a fact. That is true. I've seen a lot more acts of kindness at these things than the other side.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you to look into your crystal ball and look way down the road and tell us a little bit about what you think the biggest challenges are facing hunting in the future.
So, I personally think that getting people involved in hunting is our biggest challenge. So I'm lucky I have my son who has been involved in hunting basically since after only a few months old. We had dogs to run and get in shape, so he's kind of grown up around that. Mm-hmm. But when I look at some of his friends and just kids he goes to school with, and the hunting population isn't there right now that I see compared to like what it was, 20 years ago, 25 years ago when I was in school, So I think that's really where we're really struggling is getting the kids involved in the hunting to be able to have, to have it continue through the years. You always are going to have the land disputes and whatnot. You see a lot of people about public hunting land and stuff like that. There's always going to be some of that. But if we as hunters don't bring up that younger generation, then we're going to be the ones that basically ruin the hunting for others.
Mm-hmm. I think you're onto something there. I interviewed a young lady for a different gig that I have, and it concentrates on coon hunting. And she'd won like back-to-back youth titles in UKC in coon hunting. Super intelligent young girl, and really knew her stuff. And she was telling me at her high school, because she was high school age, that there was only like one or two other kids in the entire high school that coon hunted.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, this is the same area, roughly speaking, that I grew up in, and there were dog boxes all over the parking lots, back then. But you're right. I think there's competition for young people's time today. They have so many other options that they probably didn't have 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. So, yeah, you're spot on with that. Keeping the young folks engaged, I think, is going to be a big challenge for us.
Yeah, and I think the more and more technology and just as things evolve, it's going to be harder and harder to keep those kids involved in the hunting and really enjoying the outdoors and what it offers you.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we wrap up, I do have a couple more questions. But as we wrap up, why do you do it? I mean, what is it about rabbit hunting that keeps you going back time after time?
So, we primarily kind of switched more to competition style, and I think it's really, I grew up playing sports. My dad was a big sports person. And as your adult years they come on, you're kind of looking for something to keep that kind of competitive fire in you, and really, this has been that for us, right? And I think, not that I want to win so bad, right? But I want to, when I go to a trial, I want to have a dog that can compete. Right, so that is what keeps us going during the week, keeping these dogs going. Whether I've spent some crazy hours with dogs, whether it's at night, whether it's way too long during the day, whether I was supposed to be somewhere, really that competition aspect of it, and putting the best dog that you can out there is what keeps me going right now.
I got you. Well, speaking of that, I want to follow up on that. So you mentioned Hicks. You mentioned Boomer.
Yeah.
What do you have an up and coming dog that's maybe not quite ready for the trials, but you're excited about, that people should listen out for this young dog that's on the rise?
Well, I don't want to tell all my secrets, Sam, but no, really, I've been pretty lucky because when you look at Boomer, Hicks, and even Bolt, I mean, Bolt's the oldest dog we have right now in the competitions, and he's 4 years old. So we've kind of, we still have some younger dogs or dogs that are probably in their primes, as long as we can keep the tick-borne stuff, getting them. But Scotty Miller and I have a young female that we've been working on, and she might make an appearance next year for some of the junior hunts. But really, other than that, kind of keeping these 3-4-year-olds going, and maybe in a year or two, really looking at,
So what I get is it's going to remain a mystery. We're not going to find out who this young female is. Not today.
You never know how they're going to turn out, Sam. So I don't want to sit here and say, I got the best dog in the country coming up, and she can't run a rabbit by the time we get there.
Keaton, I've really enjoyed this. This has been fantastic. I've enjoyed learning more about you and your hounds and what it's like to hunt up in Southwest PA. Is there anything that we didn't cover, anything we didn't talk about, that anything I didn't ask you that I should have? Is there anything you want to promote? Do you stud these young dogs? Do you have pups coming? I mean, you tell me. Is there anything on your mind?
I don't really stud them yet. We will. I mean, they've had a few, litters. But again, the wise man, Mr. Hanning, told me, he said, they're either dogs that are going to run or they're dogs that are going to breed. And right now, primarily they're dogs that are, they're going to run,
Mm-hmm.
Just because I've seen it in a lot of males, especially at that age, if they get bred a lot, their mind sometimes gets in the wrong spot. And I really, at the age they're at, there's other things that, they need to be working on. But really, I think just for all of us, any listener really, to promote the youth side of these things, especially I'm a UKC guy, so the UKC youth hunts,
Mm-hmm.
my son has a blast at the one that Brave puts on every year,
Mm-hmm.
whether wins, places, whatever, it's memories made, and it's really just time for, these kids to be around other kids and around the dogs. So, really just promoting that youth side of things.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I've had a blast. This has been a good time. I really appreciate you taking time out. I understand you've been very busy here lately, and I appreciate you taking time out to share with us a little bit.
Yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity. Again, a lot of people that are successful in these trials, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that make that happen. And, for people, don't ever forget about those people and the success that you have, for sure.
Very good. Sounds like good words to end on, Keaton. Very wise,
Yes,
wise words. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Buff in the Rough. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to be notified when new content is available. And please send comments and suggestions to buffintherough@gmail.com.